Is there a husband who deceives his wife to get married? I got married to my ex-husband who lied to me almost like a fraud. This is my story. I am Anna, 38 years old. It was 6 months after I got married, when I was a housewife. Until I got married, I was working hard full-time. I had enough income to live on my own and I was busy working. I found myself over 35 years old with no time to spend the money I earned. I thought to myself, I guess I'll just stay single, but that's life. Just then, through an acquaintance, I met my husband, who was the same age as me, and we hit it off. After 6 months of dating, we got married. My parents had never expected me to get married, and they were very happy. Neither my husband nor I wanted a wedding, so we registered our marriage and made a brief report to our relatives. We started our married life as it was. People around us might think it was not enough, but my husband and I were satisfied. We had found a partner who would walk with us for the rest of our lives. That alone was enough. After we got married, I quit my job at my husband's request. My husband was the type of person who wanted his wife to focus on the house after marriage. I think this was partly because my husband was a hard worker. My parents both worked. So when I came home, there was no one to greet me. That's why I want you to stay home as much as possible. He asked me to stay home as much as possible. But I had a question. But would your parents understand? Would my parents-in-law, who both worked, understand a stay-at-home mom? As a married wife, I want to support my husband. However, I was worried because I heard that there are some people in the world who think that full-time housewives are parasites and money-eaters. However, my parents-in-law were rather positive about my husband's opinion. I would appreciate it if you could support my son as a full-time housewife. That's true, father. We'll be safe now. She welcomed me warmly. I was so relieved by her kind smile. At the time, I had no way of knowing what they had in mind. After I joined the family, I quit my job. I have no regrets about the job I have had for nearly 15 years since graduating from college. I had made up my mind to live for my husband from now on. A short time after the marriage, my husband was confronted by his father-in-law. Are you guys interested in building a house? What's going on all of a sudden, Dad? Actually, my father-in-law had inherited the land from his own father, who had passed away. However, he did not use it for anything and left it unattended for a long time. So, he asked us to build a house when we got married. He said we can save the cost of the land. We can save money on the land, and if it's just a building, the loan won't be that difficult. My husband nodded at his father's words. I guess that's true. A house, huh? I'm the head of the family now that I'm married. Saying such things, he was eager to talk about his father's story. He said he would take it home and think about it, and we decided to discuss it again as a couple. I am a stay-at-home wife and have no income right now. My husband's salary is not very high. We barely make enough money to live on. But if we don't have to pay for the land, we might be able to pay the mortgage. Besides, I have a good amount of savings from my 15 years of work. Then I made a suggestion. If you want, why don't you put down a larger down payment? Isn't that better than taking out a big loan? But my husband looked at me with difficulty. Even if you say so, where are you going to get that down payment? I don't have any savings, and I can't rely on my parents that much. You don't have any savings, even though you've been working for them for over 15 years? No, I don't have any. How am I supposed to save money on my salary? I sigh as I realize that my husband is not so arrogant about it. I wonder if he has a strange sense of money. I thought he was a sensible person before we got married. I felt I had to talk to my husband and confront him with the reality. You know, let's think a little bit about our finances. I'm not working right now. Even if my rent is replaced by a mortgage, if we buy a house, we have to pay taxes. I have to pay taxes on it. Are you thinking about that? I'm thinking about it. You just have to make it work out there. There is a limit to what I can do. Shut up. Why did you become a housewife? To support me, right? I flinched for a moment when he said that. It is true that it is an important part of a wife's job to keep the family finances in check and make ends meet. It's true, but building a house without any savings? If you're going to say that, have you been saving money? I was surprised to hear my husband's words. Of course I did. At that moment, I saw his eyes light up. I felt like I had been set up, but by the time I realized it, it was too late. What, you have your money? What are you so worried about? It is true that I have nearly $100,000 in savings. But I was somewhat hesitant to use it all to buy a house. I could understand if we were to mutually put an amount together and use it as a down payment on a house. But what about relying on my money from the beginning? Anyway, let's think about the house slowly. First of all, get an estimate. We should first get an estimate and carefully examine whether or not we can get a loan and whether or not it will interfere with our lives. What kind of carefree talk is this? If you have the money, you should build it as soon as possible, right? Don't you trust me? My husband said to me, and I couldn't help but stop talking. I am now distrustful of my husband. We had become husband and wife by trusting each other, but am I doubting him? I felt a little embarrassed to be reminded of this. I am sorry. Just understand. Anyway, you leave the house to me and my father, okay? I could only nod in agreement. And so things proceeded without any input from me in the construction of the house. The most surprising thing was the location of the house. It was right next to my parents-in-law's house. It was true that the lot next to my parents-in-law's house had always been vacant. But I had no idea that it was my father-in-law's land. I could not hide my surprise. I should have told them from the beginning that I did not want to live with my parents-in-law or in the neighborhood next door. I should have also made sure of the location. But when I asked too persistently, my husband would always say, "Do you still have doubts? Why did we become husband and wife?" I could not ask him well. I guess my parents-in-law and my husband dared not to tell me. I am sure that their goal was to trick me into letting their son and daughter-in-law live nearby. They did it so well. I was looking at the beautiful house that had just been built with mixed feelings. Surprisingly, however, there was no longer any talk of using my savings as a down payment. I built this house. It's in my name and I'm supposed to take out the loan, right? He reported proudly to me. I was relieved that my husband had thought this through, even though I had many things to say. I had miscalculated that the house would be next door to my parents-in-law's house, but we have had a good relationship so far. I thought we would be able to manage. That's what I thought. Hey, we're moving out. It was 1 month after my husband and I moved into our new house that he said to me, "We're moving out? What are you talking about? My parents will live in this house." What? What do you mean? I did not understand it all because he said it so abruptly. This house was built because my husband wanted it. Why would he let his parents-in-law live in this house? Well, this house is too big for the two of us, isn't it? It is true that our 3-bedroom house is too large for the two of us. However, wasn't this a layout based on the idea of having 2 children in the future? Even my husband, looking at our newly built house, said, "Someday, I'd like to live here with a lot of people." My husband looked at my puzzled face. "What are you doing so idly? My father and mother are coming. Clean up." "What the hell do you mean, clean up?" "We're going to take grandma downstairs to the room." By grandmother, I mean my husband's grandmother. My grandmother-in-law, who is almost 90 years old, is in poor health and can no longer walk by herself. My parents-in-law are taking care of her at their home while hiring someone to take care of her. Wait a minute, does that mean father-in-law and the other 3 are coming to this house? Yes. Why are you making such a decision on your own? This is my house. Why do I need your permission to decide? Because we are a couple. I felt anger welling up inside me. He is too selfish. How self-centered could this man be? Besides, if you put it that way, it's too broad, even for your mother and father-in-law. I replied to my husband exactly as he had said it. I think 3 bedrooms for my elderly grandmother-in-law and my parents-in-law is too big. That's also true. Then, let's live together with 5 people. What? My husband's incomprehensible words made my head spin. Because you said it is too big. Then, you would be satisfied if the 5 of us lived together, wouldn't you? I feel like I'm being set up again by my husband. How many times had this man deceived me? Anyway, I'm the head of the household and I've made the decision. You just have to shut up and obey me. And I'll ask you to take care of my grandmother. You're a housewife, so it's only natural, right? My husband said that it was a decision and went back to his own parents' house. Then he reappeared, this time with his parents-in-law. Anna, you understand the situation, don't you? Take care of them for her, will you? I'm so glad you're a stay-at-home wife. My mother was right, I was right to make you quit job. The 3 of them were getting awfully excited. At that moment, I realized. I thought to myself, I see. So they had arranged for me to quit my job when we got married. Knowing what they were up to, my anger reached its peak. I realized that they had meant it from the very beginning. You're quitting your job so you can take care of her. Your job from now on is to take care of her. Make sure you do it right. I said no. I refuse flatly, and the 3 of them instantly become quiet and refuse? Who the hell do you think you are? That's my line, isn't it? You've been deceiving me for years. I glared at my husband. But he grinned and offered me something as if it was his trump card. If you don't like it, get a divorce. With that, he threw the completed divorce papers at me. So this was his answer. He thinks that since he's succeeded in getting me to quit job, I can't leave this house. That's not going to happen. I picked up the divorce papers on the floor and said, okay. Let's get a divorce. I quickly filled them out. All 3 of them seemed to have never thought that I would agree to a divorce. They were stunned. What, Anna? I filled out the form as you see it. Now we are divorced. I'm going to submit it to the city office tomorrow. Oh, no, wait a minute. Why did you do it so easily? I took the divorce papers and went upstairs immediately. Since I had become a housewife, I had very little money at my disposal and my personal belongings had dwindled considerably. Sometimes I sold my belongings to make ends meet. I was somewhat afraid to touch my savings. But maybe that was because I had a bad feeling about my marriage to my husband. In fact, my husband and in-laws were trying to use me like a slave. I hated myself for having met some really nasty people. I simply packed my bags and I left home immediately. And the next day I filed for divorce papers. I was finally a stranger to him. After filing, I headed to my ex-husband's house to pack up my stuff. I wondered if he had taken a day off from work. Somehow he was at home. Anna, well. He was trying to say something to me, but I ignored him and proceeded to clean up. It took me less than 2 hours to finish packing everything up. If you have any problems in your life, call me anytime. He said this as I was about to return the house key and leave the house. What's the matter with him? I have more money than you, so you won't have to worry about it. I'm sure you can afford to pay your mortgage and taxes from your salary. Well, we can manage. I no longer feel anything at his optimistic words. I am sure that we have always been able to manage. He had no plan, but he had carefully laid a trap for me to fall into. I want to get away from this person as soon as possible. With this one thought in mind, I left home. 3 months later, when I had settled into my new life, I received a phone call. Please help me. Please help me. It was my ex-husband's voice. Oh, no. I should have changed my cell phone number when I got divorced. It couldn't be helped. I suppressed my emotions and answered. Yes, who are you? It's me. Listen to me. I'm really in trouble. He was so flustered that, as expected, I became a little curious. What in the world was going on? I went to the coffee shop he had indicated. For some reason, my parents-in-law were with me. So, what do you want? Please. Please lend me money. My ex-husband was the first to open his mouth, bowing and begging. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I should have been able to pay the loan. It wasn't supposed to be like this. With that, he began to tell me about his situation. The monthly loan payment was 40% of his salary. It looked as if he would be able to make the payments if he lived alone, but that was not the only situation. The company's business had deteriorated, and his salary had dropped significantly. There was no prospect of a bonus. The fact that they had set their bonus payment too high without thinking had proved to be a disadvantage. He said that his in-laws have no savings and that their lives are about to collapse. That's why he came crying to me. He really has no plan. Instead of him being depressed, my father-in-law opens his mouth. You have savings, don't you? If you hadn't divorced, he could have afforded to pay it. Please, can you pay for my son? That's when I understood. My ex-husband must have thought he could live on my savings even if the house loan was tight. Not only him, but my ex-in-laws as well. How much more can they fool me? I was convinced that I did not need to be afraid of them anymore. I refuse. Who would trust those who tried to trick me into living with them and forcing me to take care of them? Who would trust them? Since I was deceived, I should have demanded compensation from them. But I was with them for a while. But I didn't want to be with him even for a moment. I didn't want to be with them for even a moment. You were the one who prepared the divorce papers. I said, and they froze. Did they really think that if I asked them for money, they would give it to me? I will never get involved with you. I then asked them a question. Is your grandmother home today? If my ex-in-laws are here, doesn't that mean my ex-grandmother-in-law is home alone? Yes, well, yes, she is. On a hot day like this, with the temperature this high, with a nearly 90-year-old woman all by herself? Well, that's none of your business. My ex-father-in-law replies with a miffed look on his face. What would happen if you left your grandmother alone knowing that she needed care and she got heat stroke? In some cases, it could be manslaughter. When I mentioned the charges, they were surprised and quickly left the room. I knew that if I got involved with them anymore, I would be in big trouble. I immediately blocked their cell phones, so fortunately, I have not heard from them since then. Rumor has it that both my ex-husband and ex-in-laws are still living in the house. They are isolated from the neighbors because they ask for money from them. He has managed to pay the bills with his meager salary and the pensions of his parents-in-law and grandmother-in-law, but he is getting close to his limit. He says that he is approaching the end of his rope. A neighbor informed us that the ex-husband had been complaining that his wife's departure had made his life difficult. I, on the other hand, have since returned to work. My qualification as a bookkeeper, which I had held since before our marriage, came in handy, and I was hired by a company as an office clerk. It was not a full-time job, but considering my age, I guess it was inevitable. The salary was not a problem for living alone, and I had enough money in savings. It was a good thing that I had saved properly before getting married. Anna, you are always very polite and helpful in your work. Thank you. My relationship at work is good, and I am glad that I divorced and started a new life. I think so. By the way, do you ever intend to remarry? What's wrong, Chief? Actually, there is someone good for you. I braced myself for the unexpected offer of an arranged marriage. What did you think of this story? Please subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.